Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Alright, some of you are hurting a little. Well, actually, to be honest, you all seem to be in good spirits. Bullish, still buying Tesla every chance you get. But either way, I hope this video might still boost your confidence anyway. I feel that I've reached my analysis of Tesla enough to think I have a fairly good prediction of how I see the next few years unfolding. I thought, therefore, I'm now ready to give my prediction for a 2025 Tesla stock price estimate. I've been waiting a long time to do this, and I feel like I've gathered enough information to be able to make my prediction of the future of Tesla. Now, this is more of a valuation of Tesla rather than a 2025 price target. This is where I see the value of Tesla at the end of 2025. Therefore, I'm going to try and calculate an estimate of Tesla's earnings for the last quarter of 2025. Once we've worked that out, we'll then try and assign an appropriate PE ratio to give us a valuation. I'll first explain how I will treat each side of the business and how I envision it about this time. The energy side of the business is, of course, like the auto side, constrained by batteries. Any sales used in energy had an opportunity cost of being in a car and generating more profit. Energy is not going to take off until Tesla have their own in-house LFP batteries in high enough production to meet a lot of their cars too. Energy isn't going to be noticed in the earnings for Tesla until the second half of the decade, really. I mean, basically, we're trying to paint the most likely scenario and put a value on it here. And when it comes to robotaxis, then we need to decide. Even by 2025, if everything went to plan, Tesla might only have about 250,000 dedicated robotaxis, so it still won't be huge. The scenario I'm going to play, though, is FSD is 10 times safer than a human driver. Robotaxis we will leave out for now, but talk about more when it comes to the PE ratio. We will raise FSD prices to $15,000 adjusted for inflation. So this model will just be based on real prices all around, not nominal, and we have no idea what inflation might do. Due to the fact that FSD is actually working, we will also increase the adoption rate. I still can't see it being a massive earner relative to autos, but we'll see. I think of robotaxis as more binary anyway. Either Tesla gets them working and the stock price adds a zero, or they don't. There isn't much in between. Elon did say, though, dedicated robotaxi in volume production next year. So for valuation purposes, I'm just going to assign a market value of a typical Tesla instead of a robotaxi. What I'm saying is this is a valuation without robotaxis, and I'm going to do my best to value it in that way. Otherwise, like I'm trying to point out, robotaxis would just be about 80% of the value or something. And we may as well just do a full robotaxi valuation model. I think the solar side of the business is still waiting for energy, which is still waiting for batteries, which is still waiting for Tesla's in-house LFP. So I think anything solar produces will be inconsequential, again, compared to autos. There may be working prototypes of bots at this stage, but this area of the business is such an anomaly as it can somewhat reinvent economics itself. I'm going to leave it out for my 2025 estimate. Now, we should expect some more factories to be up and running by 2025. We expect Berlin, Shanghai and Texas to have expanded, and I think we could also expect 2 new locations by this stage too. Elon said 10 new factories over the next 10 years, which he may have actually meant by 2030, due to him also saying 20 million deliveries a year by then too. But in Tesla's recent impact report, they are once again saying 20 million vehicles by 2030. A huge deal if true. Anyway, I think we say 2 new factory locations is likely. Look, Tesla just built 2 huge factories within the space of 1.5 years, and another Chinese fab starting soon. We're talking about 3.5 years' time. Surely Berlin and Texas each have 1 additional fab by then too. I don't know if we can expect any new models to be in production in 2025. The only other one announced to be in production was the robotaxi. I mean, I'm including Semi, Roadster and Cybertruck, of course. There may be some other new model out by then, but it's not going to be a compact or budget EV. So look, we don't know, I don't know, you don't know, simple as that. So instead, we'll just increase the production of the other models, even if the supply ends up being higher than the actual demand. If that is the case, then there would be another model with similar profits, and would thus unlikely affect the valuation of the company. We're trying to work out a valuation of the company, remember, not estimate when and what new model Tesla are launching. And remember, we aren't concerned about robotaxis. Alright, so let's calculate how many types of model from each factory, starting with Fremont. Now, given this is over 3 years' time, I think we reach a run rate of 1 million a year for Fremont. Shanghai could be doing about 2.5 million, Berlin could be doing 2 million, Texas 2 million too. Remember, I'm including any necessary expansions in these locations. Then 2 new locations, perhaps each at 1 million a year. Now remember, these are not the numbers I am predicting for 2025. These are the run rates I am estimating by the end of 2025. 2025 is a long time, a year long even. A lot can happen. I'm just working out a valuation for the end of the year. Alright, well that comes in at 9.5 million vehicles a year. Wow, that's a lot of cars. and bound to be a lot of profit. But that almost sounds unbelievable. Well, let's see just what it will take. Using Elon's estimate of this year of 1.5 million vehicle deliveries. Well, it's actually only about 60 to 70% growth required to hit these figures. That is in line with the growth we expect. Are there any other numbers you see that look too extreme? To be honest, I would hope Texas possibly had almost twice as many vehicles, closer to 4 million rather than 2 million. We're talking 3.5 more years of ramping and expansion. 3.5 years ago from today, we only had 1 factory. Now we have 4, and this is exponential, remember? So we might expect more than 4 times as many factories in that 3.5 years. But no, we're just gonna add 50% more factories. Tesla can only ramp up like this though, if they are getting great results with the 4680 cell. Therefore, in this scenario, we will assume that the 4680 cell is going well. Alright, well to be honest, we're keeping this model relatively simple. We could go into a lot of effort for energy and other products potentially, but this is going to be pretty much a valuation on Tesla's auto sales. I've allocated a reasonable idea of how I see each model sell from each factory broken down. And remember, we're somewhat consolidating any new models that may have been launched. I've used average prices from about where we have today and have guesstimated the average price of the Semi, Roadster and Cybertruck for 2025 in today's prices. This spreadsheet is also available to download in Patreon if you want to play around with it and using your own figures. Alright, when we add all of those in, we get almost 2.5 million deliveries for the quarter. Wow, seems like so many, almost impossible. Yet Toyota and Volkswagen have managed these kind of numbers. It's a thing, it can happen. Except Toyotas don't have an ASP close to $60,000, and they don't have the same sort of profit margins as Tesla. So let's see what all this comes to. Total revenue of $137 billion in auto sales, and almost another $5 billion from FSD. Wow, FSD still only adding that little in revenue. That's still pretty decent, but like I've been saying, everything gets dwarfed by auto sales, which is why it's not worth us going into too much detail on the other sides of the business. Anyway, total revenue comes to $142 billion. We could add in regulatory credits, but I think they'd be minimally felt at this stage. Now, as for profit margin, again, I still see no threat from any competition that mean Tesla need to reduce prices and thus reduce margin. You might think that by this stage there will not be enough people to afford to spend this much on a car, but this is not a car. This is a 2025 Tesla, which would do a lot more than a 2022 Tesla. In other words, I'm going to place margins at 38%. And remember again, that excludes regulatory credits, leaving a gross auto profit of $54 billion. I've entered some figures I expect for energy and services. I expect them to have grown from where they are today, but my point is they won't have any major effect on profits when compared to auto sales, so we don't need to go too deep in there, let alone their actual profit. When we do all these figures, we end up with $42 billion in earnings, or $170 billion annualized. What PE ratio do we assign to this figure? Well, it could be argued that it is entirely based on Tesla's progress with robotaxis, as robotaxis will tower over auto revenue, like auto revenue towers over energy revenue. It is a bit of a mixed bag we have here, so let's say a PE of around 30. Remember, this is how the market values Tesla, not us. The market will not be expecting too much more vehicle growth, as they are already halfway to 20 million figure, and will potentially still be dubious about robotaxis. This is a valuation then of over $5 trillion, or a stock price of about $5,000. There you go, my Tesla 2025 price estimate without robotaxis. I'll do a robotaxi price target too, as like I said, there is little point doing it mixed in with auto sales. Robotaxis are binary, either they take off and add a zero to the stock price, or they don't. Just a quick estimate, but these vehicles come to a total cell supply of around 700 gigawatt hours a year. Does it really sound likely Tesla will have that many batteries at their disposal? Well, remember, 3.5 more years. That's a lot of time to set up 4680 lines. Berlin and Texas should be doing 200 gigawatt hours a year each. CATL will likely be supplying Tesla in the order of 250 gigawatt hours a year, plus what Panasonic and LG are supplying by that stage, along with some new Tesla factories we should see with new battery factories. All in all, sounding certainly possible that Tesla will have enough batteries for around 10 million cars a year by the end of 2025. Alright, I think that is somewhat of an indication of what Tesla's stock price could be around the end of 2025, if they've not yet cracked robotaxis. I think 2025 is an important year. It's enough time for Tesla to really make up on these exponentials. Therefore, I would appreciate all your feedback on how you see things going, and how differently you might choose what I did. Remember, this is meant to be my base case without robotaxis, but I think this can serve as a base, and we can evolve on it. We don't know what the future will bring, but the more scenarios we run, the closer we can encompass the range as to which it might unfold. Of course, it just takes a black swan event to change everything anyway. This is meant to be indicative. If you want to scale it back and drop it down to about 6 million vehicles, or about 1/3 as many cars, then the stock is still around $3,500. Also, I can understand if you might find the ASPs a little bit high and they may be slightly lower in order to generate more demand. This is still basically just the auto company valuation. As I say, robotaxis are a lottery ticket, but the auto company alone appears to be capable of reaching a valuation in excess of $5 trillion. I would say Likely Energy can also reach that. Then of course, bots, another insane lottery special too. Really though, Tesla as an auto company alone appears to have quite a future. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.